Welcome back to The Ed Show. Tonight in our series, Rising Tide, the Climate Crisis, the political disconnect on climate change. While business booms on the South Florida coast, local government officials are putting politics aside to focus on solutions to keep their towns dry. But Governor Rick Scott and Senator Marco Rubio continue to deny the science.
Flooding at high tide, always a big issue.
High tide number 2 began, and like clockwork, the ocean water reappeared on Miami Beach.
Alton Road flooded this morning. No surprise at all to Miami Beach regulars.
This is Alton Road in Miami Beach. Many people consider this to be ground zero for a rising sea level and flooding in this town. They've spent millions of dollars addressing the flooding so far, but it's going to take a major infrastructure project to make it right for the future.
There is no overnight fix, but we know what we're doing. We're moving forward.
There's no bigger believer and no bigger cheerleader than the mayor.
It's one of the most exciting cities in the world. Everybody wants to come here. Everybody's getting sand in their shoes, we call it. What we need to do is provide a stable, safe, dry community for generations to come.
Can you do it?
Absolutely, 100%. We're well on our way.
For 2 years, Alton Road, one-way northbound. Major construction, including installation of storm drainage infrastructure.
Tell us about the investments the city has made. $15 million over the last year and a half in pumps to alleviate some of the flooding problems you've had.
Right. Well, that's just the beginning of the investment, Ed. We're going to be spending probably $300 to $400 million, which really is not a lot of money when you realize you're protecting anywhere from $25 to $30 billion worth of real estate.
Real estate is booming in South Florida, even as the threat of rising tides looms.
Miami-Dade County has 230 new condominiums going up right now. And many of these are big high-rises on the beach or downtown, not little ones.
The most successful investors in the world are buying in Miami Beach. They're not buying little apartments, they're buying multi-million-dollar apartments.
How soon before the real estate market starts to be affected?
Well, that's a great question. So what's going to take us out on the real estate market is going to be the 30-year mortgage. At some point, somebody's going to figure out, hey, if I'm buying mortgages, I don't want to buy the ones that are in flooding areas or areas that could flood in 30 years.
And how do you think the business community in the out years is going to respond to all of this?
Ultimately, they'll figure out how to make money on it if they're smart. We're going to have to spend a huge amount in shifting infrastructure priorities. The people who figure out that this is actually good for business are going to do very, very well.
Local government officials are leading the charge to protect their communities. They say residents want solutions, not political games.
Yeah, that's a salt water. That's not regular water. That water coming from the sea. When the high tide comes, all the water coming to the street.
They don't want to hear everything's fine, nothing to think about, nothing to worry about, when they know better. So people down here want their elected officials to engage the issues, face them dead on, see what needs to be done, and get down to doing the job.
This is something that is real. This is something that is happening. And we need to have experts telling us what we need to do. I decided not to treat what is causing this, what is going to happen. No, it's happening. How do we provide solutions to make sure that we are prepared?
Protecting these communities will come at a high cost. It's estimated that Miami Beach alone will invest $500 million in state and local funds on flood prevention over the next 5 years. Costs in the region could be in the billions.
The residents are going to see sticker shock. Now, can they afford it? They don't have a choice. I mean, either you pay for it or you leave.
While local officials are heeding the warnings from scientists, many of their counterparts on the state and national levels are ignoring it. Dr. Harold Wanless was one of the scientists who met with Governor Rick Scott last summer to discuss the threat to South Florida.
You met with the governor, and why do you think?
He gave us 30 minutes and used 10 of it for introductions. And so we had 20 minutes, 5 of us, to explain that the global warming is real, that it's human-induced, and what to do about it.
And what was the response?
Thank you very much for coming.
Just doesn't believe it.
I don't know what he believes. He has prohibited the use of the words global warming, climate change, sea level rise, or sustainability.
This has been going on for years now, and functioning in a state where you can't even talk about it when you know you're ground zero is really difficult.
Governor, what's your plan for dealing with global climate change?
I do not believe that human activity is causing these dramatic changes to our climate.
The lack of urgency from high-level officials is frustrating to those on the ground.
We have a junior U.S. senator from Florida that he dislearned it. He used to believe it, but I think they're too busy about serving a certain clientele so they can get elected rather than being honest representatives of the people.
Senator Rubio and that section of the party will say and do whatever the Koch brothers are asking for. I mean, that's really what it's come down to. They know better. I mean, you know, he grew up in a neighborhood not far away from here. He's seen what happens. The governor's seen what happens. So they just choose to not engage the problem.
Senator, what do you say to your colleagues, so many of whom, including the governor of the state, don't seem to believe the science involved here?
Well, they're avoiding reality.
They don't want to know. They just don't want to know. I can tell you this, though, Ed. If they don't get the idea, we'll never be able to start fixing this problem. These are the people that need to get the idea. These are the people that run businesses and run government, and until they understand how serious this is just Miami. Extrapolate this all around every coast in the United States and in the Pacific in the United States. We're talking major losses here. We can't stop this. Well, we need to start dealing with it. You know, I talk to people about retreat from Miami. We're going to have to, within the next 100 years or in this century, actually leave. We won't be able to live here. That's the reality of the situation. But nobody wants to talk about that.
Joining me tonight, Dr. Harold Wanless. He is the chair of the Department of Geological Sciences at the University of Miami. Doctor, great to have you with us tonight. What is your response, and this is the blanket comment that's made out there by the deniers, that human activity is not causing climate change? Your response to that?
Well, they're simply wrong. Since about 1950, the buildup of greenhouse gases has been driving our climate. And since the mid-1990s, we have been having an dramatic increase in ice melt on both Greenland and now Antarctica. And with the warmed ocean we've had, that's just putting us on a one-way track to what's going to be a rapid accelerating sea level rise. Even the U.S. government forecasts maybe 2 feet by 2048, 6.5 feet by the end of the century, and it could well be higher because these models are not incorporating many of the accelerating feedbacks that we're seeing with ice melt.
What kind of interest do your students have in this? I know when I spoke with you, you talked about the polar ice cap. That seems to be the hot place of research right now. What about that?
Well, it's part of geology and earth processes, and we've had a lot of our undergraduates go on. They went to Miami for undergrad, but they've gone on to grad school and going into glaciology. Ice dynamics is so complicated, but we are seeing it accelerate so fast. We know from looking at the ancient that sea level ice collapse can cause very rapid sea level rise.